Chapter 2. A Whisper Before the Green. A fortnight's ride across the veined bones of the dawn march saw the world unravel into something feral. Grasslands turned coarse beneath hooves, gentled hills gave way to craggy scars of earth, and the sky, so often open and bright, wore a cloak of gray that grew heavier with each passing league. The land did not simply grow quieter. It held its breath. Wind no longer whispered through tall reeds, but slunk low between gnarled trees, as if fearing what lay ahead. Before long, the world pitched forward into the yawning maw of the Greenwall. To the folk of Sunsong, it was little more than a border, a mark penned in ochre ink across royal parchment, a line, a name, a place where cartographers let their pens hesitate. But to those who'd walked its shadow, or dreamt of its breath curling cold against their necks, it was something else, entirely. It was a silence that moved, a secret murmured only once, then forgotten with purpose. Jesil Bailmond stood now at the threshold of that forgotten breath. His cloak, spun from the midnight silk of a black-haunt spider, whispered with every breeze that managed to slither through the heavy air. He stood alone at the edge where earth met shadow, watching the mist coil around the ancient roots like pale fingers in search of warmth. The forest before him was not silent, but hushed, as though it listened. Behind him, the camp sprawled like a weary beast, stitched together from canvas, sweat, and slow anticipation. They had set base 2 miles south of the forest wall, where trees dared not grow too close to the outer world. Knights, 30 in number, erected their tents with practiced ease, square and tall, flanked by sigils that fluttered even when the air stood still. The mercenaries, less bound by ceremony and far more by necessity, kept low. Their shelters, crude skins and weather-beaten oilcloth, blended into the earth, and their fires burned small and sparse. There was no mirth in their gathering, no boasting by firelight. Men sharpened blades with the patience of those who knew what might dull them come dawn. Women stitched leather and linen, not for decoration, but survival. The talk was quiet, glances quicker still. They bore scars, some old, some inked, some proud, most not, and none turned their backs to the trees. On the second day, an ox cart groaned its way into camp, bearing iron-bound crates and jittering rumors. Supplies were sorted by quartermasters. Tales were not. A boy named Caden, barely into his 16th summer, with hair the shade of barley and hands he couldn't quite still, whispered of a stag he'd seen beyond the hills. Arrows bristled from its flank, yet it ran. Its eyes, he said, had glowed an eerie unnatural green. None laughed. Even Jesil, who had marched beneath 3 banners and buried comrades under 6 different skies, kept his axe beneath his blanket that night, hand never straying far from the haft. On the 3rd morning, scouts were chosen. Jesil, as always, found his name spoken first, silent, steady, reliable as winter frost. He rode out with 5 others, Brandon, the archer, lean and fox-eyed, with a bow carved from stormwood, and a quiver that always seemed to have one more shaft than it should. Drugan, heavy of boot and beard, yet blessed with a gaze that missed little. Silka, once of the Crimson Hollow, where blades earned names and those who bore them died young, carried twin sabers and a vendetta against the world. Caden, eager still, though the green had not left his limbs. And lastly, Rain. Rain, the elf, who moved like wind through grass, spoke rarely, and watched the world as though it belonged to someone else entirely. Her eyes were the color of ashwood in spring, pale and flecked with secrets. They entered the Greenwall in a staggered line, no closer than a low whistle apart. Each knew the other's call, the rise and fall of pitch that would mean run or strike or don't come back. Sunlight lasted only a dozen strides beneath that shrouded canopy. Beyond that, there was only a glow. Not light, not truly. It was not warm or guided. The trees bore bark veined with pallid lichen, pulsing faintly, like something alive and quietly ill. Jesil moved like a shadow cast by nothing. The loam was soft beneath his feet, yet it thrummed, something beneath the surface. Wrong, corrupted, like heat from a stone. In winter, the energy rose up into his bones. Then came the signs, tracks, not just hoofed, clawed too, some broad, some small, moss-crushed, droppings that hissed when disturbed, pools of blood, thick and dark, still wet, too fresh. Dusk found them crouched beneath a splintered arch of tree roots, breath shared in silence. Drugin lifted his head first, nostrils flaring. "Rot," he murmured, "but not death, not yet." They followed the stench to a hollow where the land seemed to recoil from itself. A cave yawned there, not carved by hand or time, but torn, as if the earth had screamed and never quite sealed shut again. From within came the stench, foulness made manifest. Sentries lingered near the mouth, goblins, squat and filthy, armor cobbled from rusted metal and bone. Their eyes glowed amber, like lanterns that had never known clean flame. Jesil made no sound, but marked them all. One nod to each scout, each vantage noted, each path in and out memorized, every twitch and scrape catalogued. By moonrise, they had slipped away like ghosts.